What's up, everybody? Ryan Michael Ballo here to talk about Overkill nootropic stacks. A guy sent me an email recently at ryan@livecortex.com because we're doing a Live Cortex Q&A sessions on video on the Live Cortex YouTube channel where people ask questions about nootropics and I just answer them on the web. And this guy's question was, it was essentially a statement telling us to critique his stack, asking us, can you critique my stack? His stack was 750 milligrams oxiracetam, 1,000 milligrams aniracetam, 2 grams piracetam, 600 milligrams alpha GPC, 250 milligrams choline bitartrate, 100 milligrams dimethylamino ethanol, 300 milligrams ashwagandha, and 100 to 300 milligrams of L-theanine, the amino acid. So think about that stack for a second, right? That is a lot of chemicals, a lot of smart drugs, a lot of nootropics kind of mixed into one. And the first point I want to make is, unless you have a mechanistic explanation for putting 3 racetams together, ashwagandha and theanine, and all 3 of those choline sources, or you have an anecdotal experience that gives you some sort of usable surge of brain energy from that stack, it's sort of futile to take that stack, right? There are some people for whom they're just going to need to take large doses of racetams and large doses of choline sources to get an effect. But there's a contingent of those people that I actually believe if they optimize their sleep, if they optimize their baseline in general, which I'm going to kind of talk about more in detail in this video, that they would have to take less of those things and they would be more responders to racetams, choline sources, and other smart drugs and nootropics. But so there's this anomalous, there might be this anomalous section of the, of people who take smart drugs and nootropics that they're just not going to respond to stuff, and there's, I don't know, reasons that we really can't identify why that's happening. But for a lot of people, in addition to optimizing baseline, I think that there are reasons why people don't get responses from nootropics, because I've been one of them before. I've been, one of those people who has taken certain nootropic stacks, not gotten a response, and then figured out that I needed to add B5 into my stack because it's required for the synthesis of a major neurotransmitter that the nootropics that are in question affect, like acetylcholine. That's what B5, and one of the things that B5 does, you need it for the synthesis of ACH. And then, in response to the nootropic that I was taking, now I get a better response, right? I've crossed over that pathway. And this has happened to me in a lot of other cases. I've seen cases in myself and cases in other people where they'll take certain nootropic stacks, same exact stack, right? No variation, no difference in the quantities, nothing different. One day, and it'll affect them positively, and they'll take it another day and it won't affect them at all. Right? And so there are reasons that this happens. If you drink alcohol, for example, you go out for a night of drinking and it's like a considerable amount of drinking, guess what you're using up? Twice the amount of magnesium you normally would. Now, I don't have a mechanism for this, but I think that it's pretty reasonable to assume that there's implications on neurological functionality when you're magnesium deficient or when you've used too much of it and you haven't repleted it. And I think it's something that people should think about. So back to this stack, right? If this person who took this huge stack were to optimize their sleep, optimize their B vitamin intake, you don't really have to go as far as testing, but that would be kind of optimal, right? You go and get tests for B12, B9, B6, B5, really everything, B1, B2, B3. If that person were to sleep 6 to 8 hours consistently and try to really work on their sleep in a way, those last tweaks are kind of like the short stretches to really try to figure out how to optimize your sleep to where you get uninterrupted sleep, where you just can sleep and not wake up. If that person didn't consistently trash their body, right? Because there's some people that go out and have a few drinks now and then. Okay, so like you had some drinks one day and then for the next 2 weeks you didn't drink any alcohol and you ate really well. But there are some people that just trash their body consistently, and there's no way that you're going to realize benefits from nootropics if you do that consistently. Yesterday I went out for a drink with my cousin and her boyfriend, and I had 2 beers and like a wine, like to try this Cabernet. I normally never mix stuff. Then I went to a bar thereafter and did some work and had another beer because I was like, you know what, I've had some beers already, so I might as well just drink another beer. But that's it. And prior to that, guess what? It's been 3 weeks. Prior to that, it's probably been a month. I just don't drink a lot. So so if you're not treating your body like shit consistently, doing all those other things that I talked about, nootropics are going to affect you a lot more. And I guarantee you that for some people taking these large stacks of racetams and choline sources, that if they were to consistently optimize all of those things in a very predictable manner, in a very granular manner, getting as detailed as you can with trying to optimize each one of those segments, sleep and B vitamins and magnesium and other things, whatever else you might need to optimize, that it wouldn't have to take such high doses of racetams and stuff, choline sources to get an effect. Now there's the choline sources, right? Again, unless one has a mechanistic argument or some sort of anecdotal experience or evidence to support the idea of taking 3 choline sources with the racetams, I just don't see the need for that. Let's just say you keep that stack at 750 milligrams oxyracetam, 1,000 milligrams aniracetam, 2 grams of paracetam. Let's just say you keep that stack the way it is and you've got all those racetams in there. You really only need 1 choline source for that. You're certainly not going to need dimethylaminoethanol, cytidine 5-diphosphatidylcholine, alpha-glycerylphosphorylcholine, and fucking choline bitartrate was in this stack too, man. I mean, this is what I mean. Like, that's overkill. You don't need that. You're not going to need that. What's the mechanistic explanation for that? And I understand that for some people, there may be some sort of anecdotal thing because, like for me, CDP choline, sometimes I'll take choline bitartrate with CDP choline because CDP crosses the blood-brain barrier and you're going to feel that right away. But the rest of the stack might actually use more acetylcholine, and I don't want to put a whole bunch of CDP in there because that's going to blast my brain right away, and I don't like that feeling. But I want a reserve of acetylcholine in the background, so I'll use choline bitartrate to make that happen. So there is some rationale for that, but I really just can't see the rationale for having 4 choline sources. DMAE, that's kind of questionable about whether or not it's exclusively a choline source. I think it does other stuff. One day I'm going to go back to that and really look at the mechanisms because I'm kind of, it makes me feel like crap. And like, whereas if I take equal dose of a more exclusive acetylcholine precursor, I feel fine. But God, I mean, like there certainly isn't a case for all of that stuff. And so I guarantee you this: if we were to optimize that person's stack, that person's brain, the person who had this super overkill stack, in a way which really considered magnesium intake or got their micronutrients in a levels that were kind of the normal levels that people are supposed to have, if they got their B vitamins in check, if they found a way to sleep 6 to 8 hours uninterrupted, if they got enough calories for the day, if they got enough carbs for the day, if they did a workout in the morning, particularly resistance training, and if we worked on virtually everything else that in between, other micronutrients, other vitamins, other minerals, other stuff, that they wouldn't need that stack. They wouldn't need that stack to be so significant. Me, over the course of the last couple of years, I've worked on a myriad of health advances and improvements. I've had some health issues that really fucked with my sleep, and I fixed that and fixed my sleep as a result. I fixed a lot of what seemed to be micronutrient deficiencies for me, a few vitamin deficiencies, and I've really just worked on implementing some of this stuff, like resistance training in the morning. I mean, major difference to my brain function from normal baseline and resistance training in the morning. I've worked on my blood sugar levels. They used to be kind of shitty, where at 3 p.m. I would eat an apple pie and I'd crash at 3:45 or 3:30. Now I can eat an ice cream cone at 2, 3, 4, whenever, and feel totally fine. Resistance training had a lot to do with that. Lower glycemic index carbohydrate intake on a consistent basis had a lot to do with that. So I optimize all these elements of my baseline, and now I notice with certain nootropics that I just need to take less of them and I get the same effect. So the overarching point is that, like we've talked about before on Live Cortex, it's a major theme of mine. You got to optimize your baseline, guys. That's majorly important. I understand that there may be some situations for which taking nootropics as a rescue strategy is a good idea, and I've been there, we've all been there, okay? And you just want to minimize the amount that has to happen, but the majority of the time, you want to be functioning really optimally. You want to work on your baseline and make it really, really awesome. And when it comes to nootropics and how the brain has to work to synthesize nootropics, synthesize neurotransmitters that nootropics affect, like B5 and acetylcholine and hosts of others, the best way to take nootropics to get the best effect is to have a super optimal baseline. That is the best way. It's to really work on that baseline and get it functioning amazingly, and then you take nootropics. And then this stack, this crazy stack that this guy's taking, you would have to have all that stuff in there. You could probably get away with taking it down to 1,000 milligrams oxyracetam. Listen, if you want to keep all those racetams in there, fine. 2 grams paracetam, 750 milligrams aniracetam, 750 milligrams oxyracetam. 1 choline source. The ashwagandha and the theanine out, unless you think that they're sort of negating some of the stimulatory effects of the racetams, in which case you should probably just dial down the dose of the racetams. But that's me being generous right now. I really think you should take all those racetams out and then put one in at a time and shoot for the effect that that one gives you. If you want a different effect some other time, the one that piracetam gives you, then take piracetam. You know, if you want the working memory and sort of stimulatory creativity effect that aniracetam might give you, fucking just take aniracetam. You know, if you want that focus capacity, that laser focus capacity, to just sit down and get on it, that oxiracetam gives certain people, take oxiracetam. You know, and a choline source. If you've optimized your baseline really, really well, and you've been effective in doing so, you're not going to need all of that stuff for usable surges of brain energy. You can get the same amount of brain energy. I mean, this is kind of one of the other major points, and that I've come to realize. If you've got an optimal baseline, just taking certain nootropics, I'm blown away. It's not that I'm a lightweight. You know, it's not that I weigh 150 pounds. It's not, because I've weighed 150 pounds and taken nootropic stacks and not gotten the greatest of benefits from them. It's because I've optimized baseline. I'm looking at B vitamins. I'm starting to read about, I've been reading about, but really, really recently I've been really into what is required for the synthesis of the neurotransmitters that the nootropics in question affect. It's important, guys. Really, really critically important. Optimize your baseline. That is the best way to realize benefits of nootropics, and then go from there. You will get a majorly better benefit increasingly as you continue to optimize baseline, in response to nootropics. Again, I don't want to seclude people, and I don't want to make people feel bad, because I know there are people for whom taking larger doses of racetams and taking larger doses of stuff is going to be beneficial for them. Maybe they need to fix B vitamins, magnesium, other micronutrients, carbohydrate intake, sleep, all these other things, and maybe there's a contingent of them that do all that stuff well, and they still require larger doses. And for that, I mean, I still don't give up. Like I was just thinking yesterday, the reason I'm effective in the world is because I do not stop. Like if I want to figure something out, there might be something else at play, which is causing you to need more racetams. But okay, all right, now I'm being nice again. There are some people that just need to take large doses of everything, and I guess you guys are anomalous, and whatever, who cares about the reason? Just continue taking them. But for a lot of people, you could take a lot less and get a major benefit if you optimize your baseline and you started paying attention to what nutrients in food and what vitamins that you can take, that you do the reading on the literature on what you need, cofactors specifically, required for synthesizing certain neurotransmitters. So thanks a lot for watching. If you have not heard of or secured yourself a bottle of the Cortex Nootropic stack, it's a stack that I spent 1.5 years from inception to production of the bottle making. It combines uridine monophosphate, CDP, choline, artichoke extract, and Bacopa monnieri. Looks like I need some nootropics for the day. And it's a wonderful stack. I take it every day. Now I'm taking the Cortex Gen 2 experimental with it, which is slightly different, but it is a very powerful stack for brain function, for consistent brain function. It's also extremely synergistic with caffeine. So look for a modafinil-like experience if you're going to take Cortex Generation 1 and drink a few cups of coffee or take 150 milligrams of caffeine. I'm rambling. Thanks a lot for watching. Get the points. Get the points. Talk to you later.